Hey, this is Robbie with Wheaton Arms again. Today we're going to talk about how to disassemble the MMP 1522 and install the SlideFire stock, the CMC Trigger, and the Wheaton Arms Reverse Brake. So let's get started with this. First, we've got a stock MMP 1522 rifle. First thing we're going to do is remove the buttstock. So extend the buttstock all the way out. The lever on the bottom here, pull down on it, and slide your stock off. That's simple. So now we've got our buttstock off and just our buffer tube left. We'll throw that to the side. Next, once we have our buttstock removed, we've got the little plastic chamber indicator here to show that the gun doesn't have a round in the chamber. So we're going to remove that, pull your bolt back, pull this out, and you can discard that. Next, we're going to separate our upper and our lower. I've got a little handy dandy pin pusher here that helps to get these pins started. So they're a little tight from the factory. Get those started. And we separate our upper from our lower receiver. We'll put our lower down, and here we've got our barreled upper assembly, our flash hider, which we're going to remove and replace with the Wheaton Arms Reverse Brake. We'll put that down first. We'll go ahead and build the lower receiver. The grip's going to come off, the trigger assembly is going to come off, all those parts will be replaced with the CMC Trigger and then with the SlideFire stock on this. Now we're going to remove the grip, remove the trigger assembly, and install the SlideFire stock and the CMC Trigger. So first, you take your Allen wrench, and inside there's a Allen screw down in there. Slide your Allen wrench in. Remove your screw, and as you're taking it off, if you notice, there's a spring here and a spring here. Those two springs also have a little detent pin up inside here, inside the receiver. One detent pin acts with your safety here and provides a positive stop when you take the safety on and take the safety off. The second detent pin is what retains your rear takedown pin. So make sure you don't lose those two pins. So what we'll do, we're going to remove the grip. Okay. We'll set our grip to the side. These two springs, if you notice, they're two different sizes. Lay them here so you can get a good picture of them. The smaller diameter spring, the smaller wire diameter spring goes in the rear. That's for your rear takedown pin. The larger diameter wire diameter spring goes in the front. That's for your safety selector. So make sure you don't install those incorrectly. If you do, your safety is not going to function properly. Here you can see this little pin. That's your rear detent retaining pin that goes with the little blue spring. And here, this is your safety selector detent that goes with the larger spring. So once we have those out, next we remove our safety, and it just pulls. You can see it's in there. It just pulls straight out. So we'll pull our safety out, set it to the side. Our detent pin. Okay, so this is a little different from an AR-15. There's no groove in this pin. It just works in the front and the rear groove here to hold it open and closed. So we'll set that to the side. Next, we're going to remove our trigger and hammer assembly. So what you want to do is pull the trigger and lower the hammer to take tension off of it. Take your punch, push out your hammer pin. Here's your hammer pin. And as you see, when the punch went through and pushed it out, the punch held the hammer in place. So when you remove it, you grab the hammer, pull your punch, and retain it. It's still under spring tension, so that can go flying when you take it out. Next, we're going to remove the trigger and the disconnector assembly. What I normally do is put my thumb on top of the disconnector to help hold that in place. Again, push out my trigger retaining pin, set it to the side, and now I can ease up on the trigger and pull the entire assembly out. We'll put those parts to the side. We won't be using those anymore. Next, we've got our CMC trigger that we're going to install. This is one of the 3.5 pound curve triggers. Pull it out, and they'll come in the package like this with the hammer decocked. So the first thing you want to do is cock the hammer so your assembly looks like this. Next, drop the entire module into your receiver. Okay, then we're going to get our JP trigger pins. And the JP trigger pins are a little bit longer than the CMC trigger pins that come with your trigger. So you'll have to go with the longer trigger pins because the M&P receiver is wider from here to here than a stock AR-15 receiver, so the factory CMC trigger pins won't work. You have to use the longer JP trigger pins. So then we'll slip the first pin in, and we'll slide the second pin in. Once you have your 2 pins installed, you'll take your little Allen wrench and your screw, start one screw on the side, and we'll start our second screw in the side. Flip your receiver over. Put the opposing screw in. Now you've got your Allen wrenches sticking out on both sides. You'll just tighten these down until they snug up. Once you get those snugged up, you want to function test your trigger, make sure that it works like it's supposed to. You'll cock it, pull the trigger, everything works fine. Hold the trigger to the rear, cock the hammer, release the trigger, and make sure that the disconnector is releasing the hammer. So all of that's functioning properly. Now we'll cock the hammer again. We'll take our safety selector, slip it back in. And we'll flip our receiver over. You can see you've got these 2 holes here. The front hole is for your safety selector. The rear hole is for your takedown detent. Parts are in the gun. Go ahead and slide. Then we reinstall our safety selector detent. And we install our rear takedown pin detent. And now we're going to install the SlideFire trigger block. So we'll put our safety selector detent spring in the front hole, and your blue spring, which goes for your takedown detent, will drop in the rear hole on the receiver itself. And these 2 parts can be a little aggravating getting started. There we go. Once you get the block slid on, make sure that your safety selector detent spring is in the hole. You may have to wiggle that around a little bit to get it in there. Same thing. As you tighten this up, make sure this rear spring doesn't kick over to the side and get canted and you crush that spring when you're tightening it. So it's real easy to do. Next, we'll take our grip screw. This is the factory grip screw that was in your AR-15 grip. So you'll take that, and it goes through this hole on the bottom of the receiver, on the bottom of this block. Slide that in. Drop your Allen wrench, make lots of racket, scare the camera person to death. And we'll tighten this up, and like I said, just hold it to where you can watch these 2 springs as you're tightening it, and make sure those springs don't get canted or cocked or out of place and you crush one of your springs while you're tightening it. Okay. That's our rear block installed. So now we can function test our safety. That works properly. Now we'll check the safety and make sure it works with the trigger. So we put the rifle on safe, we'll pull the trigger, hammer didn't fall, so we're good. Off safe, hammer still didn't fall. And now we'll check it to make sure the hammer falls, and the hammer does fall. Always make sure that you retain the hammer with your thumb so it doesn't slam into the front of the receiver. It can crack the front of the receiver if it hits it. Alright, so everything's good there. Cock it, put it back on safe. Now we'll install our SlideFire stock. All we do with this is slip the buffer tube on. When you put the bottom piece in, you've got a track groove here. As you can see, this little groove here, and you've got a little track on the trigger block assembly. So make sure that the track on the trigger block assembly goes into the track on the stock. Slide it in. This little knob here, we'll pull that down, slide it all together, and now our SlideFire stock is installed. So that's all there is to the lower, guys, and now we'll move on to the upper. Now we've got the upper receiver mounted in our vise here. You can see we've got the aluminum jaws with a little bit of paper in between it so it doesn't leave a mark or anything on the barrel. If you don't have these aluminum jaws at home, you can use a couple of blocks of wood with a piece of paper in between it, clamp that in your vise, and a little bit of weightlifting rosin also helps to give a good bite on it when you tighten it down. Now we're going to remove the factory flash hider. So we'll take our either a multi-tool, the AR-15 multi-tool, or you can use a 3/4 inch wrench. So you guys can see how this is done. We'll just take our wrench, break this loose. There's your flash hider off. Here's your crush washer. Alright, so now we're going to install the Wheaton Arms Reverse Brake. As you can see here, we've got our new crush washer, and we're going to install this with the concave side against the barrel and with the convex side facing out. Slide that on. And we'll take our 1/4 inch punch, slip that in your rear hole. Turn that down to where you've got your ports facing out at 3 and 9 o'clock. So now that we've got the rifle completed, we're going to put it all back together. So you can see we've got our hammer cocked here, we've got the rifle on safety, we've got both of our takedown pins pulled out so the upper receiver will slip right in. So we'll take our upper receiver and we'll put the front in. We've got our front pin closed, and we'll put our rear in. Our rear pin closed. Everything cycles. Safety functions. And there's the complete rifle with the SlideFire package installed, ready to go.